Namaste. Welcome to
Namaste.
Beyond Limits, fourth edition. Today we have someone very interesting who is software engineer by profession. He is president of DLC Corporation, board member of Florida Big Data Group. That is his profession. But by passion, he is a philosopher. And he manages 5 different groups, philosophical groups, meetups, and these days over Zoom. Stoic Dan, that's how he is called, Dan Lampert, all the way from Florida. Welcome to Beyond Limits, Dan.
Thank you for inviting me for this conversation.
I'm curious what Stoicism is all about. Would you like to highlight?
Sure. Well, Stoicism it not only started 2,300 years ago with Zeno in Athens, Greece, but basically they took ideas from other schools at the time, other schools of thought, and Zeno incorporated it into what we now call Stoicism. It's also been added to over the years. And today, what we have is a large collection of tools, mental tools. Some people in today's parlance would call it mental hacks, where you're basically understanding how your mind works or how to improve your mind.
We suffer more in our imagination than in reality. Can that be applied in today's world and we really become more resilient with the help of Stoicism?
Yes, I think just the one tool that you're referring to about our thoughts and impressions of the world, that has not changed much in 2,300 years. We still today have impressions of the world that could be false. I could be fooled, or I could be fooling myself as to what is happening. I think that to answer your original question, there are not only groups of people who are interested in this, perhaps software people or technology people and people in the military, but I think that people of all sorts can benefit from Stoicism because it does have these general tools like watch your impressions, beware of your impressions. I think everyone can benefit from Stoicism.
So, this also sounds very close to Buddhist philosophy. And as you know, Siddhartha Gautam was born in present day Nepal, Lumbini, and Buddhist philosophy traveled from Asia to Europe, US, across the globe. So, do you see some sort of similarity or connectivity between these two philosophies or religion, Buddhism and Stoicism?
Yes, I think there are many. My favorite three are, first of all, attachments. Buddhists are very famous for warning us about our attachments because if we have too many of them or attachments that are too strong, then it will lead to suffering. And the Stoics believe similarly that if you have great attachments, like I want all my possessions around me, then that will lead to problems down the road. So Buddhists will call it suffering. Uh, Stoics will call it difficulties down the road, but it's the same idea. And then there's also the other choices of moderation or the middle way. And then there's also making rational decisions, not just reacting or judging quickly, because that leads to problems also. And I think that there are many other areas that can compare Buddhism and Stoicism, but the historical aspect is also of interest to me. There are some scholars who believe that in ancient Greek times that they may have sent intellectuals or teachers to India at the time where Buddhism was to begin, about 500 BC, and they may have brought some of that knowledge back to Greece so that it could influence people when Stoicism was born at 300 BC. But we don't have that linkage documented yet.
Let me change this conversation slightly. Do you think mountain climbing is a stoic activity?
I think that my first impression of it is that a mountain climber, let's say if I were climbing a mountain with you in Nepal and you take a picture of me on the mountain, standing there, maybe some clouds nearby, that would look like a very stoic image because it's me against the mountain, it's me against the weather and the elements and all of the challenges that come with it. Picture or that experience is what's happening inside me as I approach the mountain. I'm using a certain amount of persistence and I'm using my energy to overcome some obstacle. And as a Stoic internally, I'm also thinking about the issue like, did I bring enough food? Is my tent going to be warm enough tonight when we camp? Things like that. Um, I think that the Stoic experience is mostly going on inside of us, and we are overcoming the battle within.
So, there's a quote that it's not the mountains we climb, but ourselves. And as you said, the obstacle is the way, is one of the quotes from Stoicism. Present obstacle. We don't know when and how soon this COVID challenge will get over. How do we see this obstacle as an opportunity to create something more meaningful and useful to humans?
The Obstacle is the Way was the name of a book by Ryan Holiday. And he
Okay.
got that title from the writings of Marcus Aurelius, who talked about the importance of having an obstacle to improve yourself. You know, a lot of us think about obstacles. Yeah, of course it's going to improve me, but we don't think about how it really does that. For example, in technology, to answer your other question, if I'm building a new technology, which I find very difficult, but I persist in it and I research it more, maybe it has mathematics or database design or something else involved, something I haven't done before. By achieving that obstacle, it's like a test for me that not only improves my mind in my understanding of the world, but also it shows me afterwards that I was able to do it. And so when I come to the next obstacle, whatever that might be, I can look back and I could think, listen, I can think to myself, look at what I've achieved. I've been able to get through obstacles like this. And therefore, that gives me not just a confidence, like a false confidence, it would be a true confidence because I know I have come through obstacles like this before and I was able to overcome them.
The minimalism is almost a way in the Himalayan region. There are people who are nomads in the Tibetan plateau or even some part of Nepal. So they have been practicing minimalism. But how do you see minimalism as a helpful tool to Stoics as well as the human beings of today?
Yes, my favorite part of minimalism is um, is what drew me into it in the beginning, which is they talk about fewer possessions, of course. That's the common definition, which most people know, to reduce your number of possessions so that they're not a burden to you. But minimalism has two more more interesting ideas, and this relates to Stoicism as well, is number one, when you keep certain possessions, the minimalists stress that you pick things that have a function in your life or a purpose in your life, not just keeping it for the sake of keeping it as a possession. And so they say that as you shed more possessions, you should come down to the small amount of possessions left that are things that truly give value or happiness to you in your life. And then, of course, minimalists talk about managing your time. That is not just giving it away freely to everyone who wants a meeting with you or a phone call with you, but to pick them carefully and to say, you know, is this going to be a truly important call or meeting? And so you're focusing better on what's important again. and you're doing it with time and not possession. So those are very important areas for minimalism, and they apply in Stoicism too. The resulting wisdom that we have is that whether you have a little or a lot in terms of money or possessions, the important thing is that you find happiness or eudaimonia in that. And remember, this happiness is not a superficial happiness. Eudaimonia means that you are happy in terms of how flourishing your life is. Are you doing what you enjoy to do? What benefits others? What seeks virtue? That's a true flourishing. And that's really independent of how much wealth you have.
So it's not like present day humans who are in hedonic treadmill. So you need to be grateful with what you have and still strive for excellence in life, if I could gather you correctly. Now, I'm very curious to learn that what exactly do you do in your philosophical discussion station? And how can one practice and learn this philosophy?
Yes, right now, the Orlando Stoics are on Friday night. They are reviewing a book by Massimo. It's called The Handbook for New Stoics. And we're going through every Friday another exercise. The one that we did recently was negative visualization. And this is another Stoic tool that people can use to improve their happiness or their tranquility. The way that it does this is very simple, is in preparing for your day, you think about the things that could go wrong. Some people call this Murphy's Law, but when you do prepare, even if you don't have a detailed plan for how to handle different things that go wrong, at least you've thought it about a little bit. And if it does go wrong, then you know that you have some plan, maybe general, maybe detailed, to counter that difficulty. And then you'll get over it better or faster. And so you'll be able to keep calm.
It means the Stoics just don't believe to be hopeful, but they stay ready for the worst case scenario.
Right. Actually, if a Stoic is hopeful, it's because he, she, or they have a plan. They have something in their pocket, so to speak, to deal with those adversities when they come. That it's in business, Stoicism does help with mental toughness, but also it's I would say it's mental creativity. So that if I do, let's say I'm building some new technology, I not only need the persistence to make it through that process and in working with other people on my team, but I need to have the creativity so that when we come up against a wall that we've never seen before, we need to understand what is this obstacle, how do we get around it? And that's often where creativity plays a role. Earlier, you mentioned I'm a part of the big data group in Florida, and big data is an interesting form of technology that allows us to get over some obstacles we could not do before. Big data does this because it has gathered thousands or millions of points of data, sometimes in real time, very quickly, and it allows us to make better decisions that we were only guessing at before. So big data is one of those solutions, one of those creative solutions.
It's interesting to learn that Stoicism still holds ground, still relevant, and it may help people to slow down a bit, think clearly, become more creative, and find a path even in the scenario when the path is not visible.
Yes, I would say that Stoicism for anyone today in both your personal life and your business life, even in relationships, people are exploring their relationships through Stoicism. And the ways that you can do that, some of the major recommendations is that if you practice your Stoicism or your life with less judgment, then you don't rush to certain judgments because you're judging less. You're taking a little bit more time. And also, as a result, you'll be more rational rather than emotional. We all know that sometimes being emotional, although it's a part of being human, it sometimes gets us into trouble. So if we're a little bit less emotional and more rational, we can do better.
Stoic Dan, I love that line. Be more rational and less emotional. What would be your advice or suggestion to people who think they are suffering the most or their challenge or problem is the worst?
Well, I will use one of my favorite quotes from Marcus Aurelius. Your friends can Google this online. It's from the book Meditations, chapter 5, part 1. That's 5.1 in Meditations, where Marcus Aurelius, I'm going to paraphrase him here. He says, when you get out of your bed or when you wake up in the morning, you can think to yourself that you can complain about your position. You may want to stay in bed, but Marcus concludes the important thing is that you don't stay under the covers. You are not meant to just live under the covers, all safe and sound. You are meant to get out in the world and do things. And so that's a very inspiring quote.
Thank you, Dan. If the emperor felt that he had to work and get out of bed to deliver, to make his life more meaningful and to make lives of many, we in the present day must get out of our comfort zone and turn our obstacles into the opportunities. Thank you once again for sharing your insights, and it was wonderful having you, Stoic Dan. I look forward to learn more from you, following you in your Twitter feed and your YouTube channel. Namaste, and hope to see you in the Himalaya in your Stoic walk sometime in future.
Thank you, my friend.